And John Cookson joins me now live from London for more. Good to see you, John, and thanks for your time. Now, the ECOWAS deadline has expired. So what do you think will happen next?
Hi, Solomon. Good to see you. But we know there's another ECOWAS meeting on Thursday. But look, the ECOWAS members have really put themselves in a bind here by not taking any action and letting last night's deadline go by. They're losing a heck of a lot of credibility here and sending perhaps a signal to other military leaders elsewhere in Africa that they can carry out a coup and get away with it. So it's a very difficult situation for them. I thought perhaps they would extend the deadline, but really it's difficult to know which way they should go for the best at the moment, because there seems to be, as far as the soundings I've been making today, there seems to be no appetite, no strong appetite in Nigeria for an invasion of neighbor Niger. And of course, the new President Tinubu was reined in by the Senate over the weekend over any plans to do that. The northern states are against a war, and there are other factions within Nigeria that will be opposed to a war with Niger. So, as I say, it's difficult to know which way ECOWAS can go right now without losing all credibility, especially in a situation where the military might in the whole setup is Nigeria, and there seems to be no appetite in Nigeria for any serious military action. Now, a little earlier today, I spoke with Ayo Adedoyin, who is an expert in this field. He works, in fact, he's the CEO of the International Organization for Peace, Building and Social Justice, and it's a group that monitors security in Nigeria and has been doing so for a number of years. So his voice is certainly worth listening to. And I asked him what he thought ECOWAS should do now.
I think it's ECOWAS coming together and saying, wait a minute here, before we go and get ourselves into a war against ourselves, West Africa against West Africa, or even draw it out and become a big African mess. Let's pull the parties together and negotiate our way out of this, talk our way out of this, figure out what is the route back to democracy, not just in this nation, but in this region. I mean, Niger has been a very important shield for Nigeria in the battle against the insurgents. And so the last thing anyone should be wanting to do here is to make the situation any worse.
You mentioned Russia earlier. This has got Putin's sticky fingers all over it, hasn't it?
Well, I know the theories have been flying all over the place, but my first instincts are that this is very internal. I mean, don't forget that there was a previous coup attempt, and the people who have been involved in this coup were the ones who quashed the last coup attempt. What I think may very well have happened in relation to external parties are parties taking advantage of the opportunity that has arisen here, and I think that's why it's so important for ECOWAS to sit down at the table and have a family meeting, have a family conversation, and not get sucked in and just really escalate in the world all that's going on already.
One last question. Are we perhaps seeing the last knockings of Western influence in West Africa, the end of colonialism as we knew it?
Well, I mean, to a large extent, the ex-colonial powers really ought right now to be having a totally different conversation with Africa. Africa has come of age, and so there's a lot going on. But what the West, and particularly the UK, ought to be doing right now is having a grown-up conversation of sovereign equals that will be beneficial to both parties, as opposed to ideas of some old dynamics. I think the time has come for a totally new conversation.
Well, Jen, interesting conversation there listening to Adedoyin. You're also talking about Niger being a buffer for Nigeria against the fight against insurgency. But again, what can we make of yesterday's impressive Sunday attendance in Niamey? Is there really popular support for coup leaders?
Let's say right at the start that those images that we saw today and have been beamed around the world were put around by state TV initially and then picked up by the news agencies, including our partners AFP and Reuters. And look, all those people in the stadium may have been paid to have been there, but my sense of it is that this was something that was very spontaneous and seemed genuine enough. And as our recent guest just said now, his sense of it is that there were internal uprisings already underway, at least in thought and action rather than a coup. And, it seems to be genuine. And of course, there are 24 million people in Niger, most of them living on less than $1 a day. And it's hard to know what every citizen thinks, but certainly those stadium pictures were very dramatic, very impressive, and in a way, even if they were paid to be there, the impact has already gone around the world. In other words, this has set the image of the junta being approved of by the people, and so I saw these pictures on social media before they appeared on the agencies, and of course that's how people